but yeah, so coming back to that, as far as like the whole discipline thing, and until you get to a certain point where it doesn't feel like discipline, it just feels natural.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good point, especially when it comes to your habits. Because like as we're trying to change our habits, we need that discipline, right, to stay on track and not to kind of slip off and stuff. But then at some point, it's almost like that habit, that new habit becomes part of your subconscious, and that's just the way you operate. Like, and Bernard is a perfect example of that. And that's the conversation I was referring to the other day at your party, where I feel like he's in that place where he can get himself into a situation, and this is what he expressed to me, and he can analyze the situation and identify, yeah, that chips or that ice cream or whatever it may be, like, may looks really good and tell me right now, but he knows it doesn't align with like who he is now and like what he wants for himself in his future. So he knows, okay, stay away from it, and he doesn't indulge.
Yeah, we create a higher ideal for ourselves, and discipline is a tool to help us realize that.
And to get there as well.
Yeah, you know, and when it comes to food, as a good example, right? If you have those kind of temptations for whatever junk food, right? Understanding that where that comes from.
Yeah.
For people to really let go of junk food or poor eating habits, there's a part of them they need to heal, right? It's like healing the part of yourself that needs that, or that finds comfort in that, knowing in your conscious mind it's not good for you. So what are you actually getting from
So what's
that?
the emotional connection that you're holding on to?
Right.
That's enabling you to need that comfort.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be any substance, right? For a lot of people, food is their substance of choice.
We keep coming back to food, but you're right. It could be a lot of things.
Alcohol, anything.
It could be even just chilling out watching Netflix or something, right?
Yeah.
Any action whatsoever. Really.
Yeah. But that's actually a really good point, man.
Mm.
It's like, what's that emotional connection that's kind of holding you back from?
But like, cause like I think that comments on something that came up. I know that I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, and like in her book, like Daring Greatly, like she outlines it as like as culturally we're like heavily oversaturated in several activities that are not supportive, like heavily. You know, again, food, alcohol, where you spend your time, there's anything to kind of like numb our life.
Consumerism.
And like escapism as a whole, and all that waterfalls under that topic. You know, because like and I feel it's like even talking about like control or out of control, it's like we have no control over anything at all. I believe so anyway. And it's just like the things that you can, like you might have like the appearance of you have a level of influence that appears as control, but you don't control anything. And like I feel like that's why we tend to culturally we tend to saturate ourselves with all this stuff to kind of escape from that, because I think deep down we all really know that, but that's just my opinion.
Sometimes we have phases, right? Like when my dad was diagnosed with brain cancer last year, it began this downward spiral where junk food was something that I was doing, and I knew this wasn't me.
You were aware of it, but you were still doing it.
I was aware of it, right? I was drinking alcohol on the daily, and I was trying to understand where that came from, and I really think it was the escapism. It goes back to that, right? It's not wanting to confront
what's really
pain.
happening.
Yeah, painful feelings, running away from them, really.
It's self-medicating in a way. It's like that's why Bernard talked about like emotion. It's all emotionally based. Because I know when I started training with you 2 years ago, I realized like the food habit that I had and why I gained weight is because I was eating out of emotion. I was not eating because I was hungry. I was eating because there was an emotional issue. And then when I did the mastermind and started to clear these patterns, then I started to be ready for training. And then I wasn't interested in the food anymore.
You heal the part of you that needed that.
Yeah.
And you became disciplined, basically.
I became disciplined, and like the whole thing about you see food that's not good for you, I'm not even interested.
So it's more than actually discipline. It's also you became aware. You became aware of like why you're doing these certain habits.
The first discipline was to go to the mastermind on a regular basis, no matter what. For me, that was that.
So consistency.
That was the first
Consistency,
one.
for sure.
Definitely.
And
So-
for the first time, when that first started, that was it's just like I don't care
Yeah.
what gets in the way of this.
Same.
I'm
Every
gonna be
Monday,
there.
no matter what,
Yeah.
I had to be there.
And I think that's important too. Is like, how do you stay consistent? How do you stay disciplined, even when you don't want to show up?
You be responsible.
Yeah.
Right? You
Right.
take responsibility for your life and for your decisions.
But you
right?
also find the gifts in it, because you also, when you're, there's something to be gained when you're disciplined. Once you've done it, you're happy. Like when you did your walk in the morning, you
Yeah.
feel
How did
great.
you feel?
You know you're
Yeah,
gonna feel better.
it feels good.
So
Yeah.
hold on to that. And then when you don't feel like it, you kind of like, oh, but I felt great when I did it
Yeah.
last time. So let me just put the
Yeah,
extra
but
effort.
let me throw something a wrench in there because like, and for myself, this has been showing up. Like even though you're aware of that, like even though that walk has been serving you and stuff, like do you find that there's still some resistance to continuing with that that consistency of doing that every morning? Like for myself, doing my morning routine, waking up at like 5:30, enabling me to do like a meditation, sometimes some journaling, I do some yoga, and it serves me really, really well. But there's still that resistance towards it. I'm trying, and I've been trying to kind of hone in on that for myself,
Yeah.
and to figure out, okay, how can I kind of eliminate that resistance, so it becomes more of a pattern and more of a habit that I just kind of like, wake up and jump into.
Well, in my experience,
Like, why is that resistance even showing up?
well, in my experience, the resistance still being present just means you're still in your training mode, right? You're still developing
Yeah.
that part of yourself,
Okay.
right? Until it becomes
It's
second
not.
nature.
It's not right.
Right? It's just your routine. It's just what you do. It's just who you
Right.
are.
Right. I love
Right?
that.
Yeah. So when we're fighting against resistance, I take it as just a signal that training is not over yet. This phase is not over yet.
Okay.
Right? To go from conscious competence to unconscious competence. Right?
Even let me just add one thing in there, because as you were saying that, it's like you're kind of like letting go of like an older version of yourself and trying to replace that with a newer version. So
Yeah.
like you said, it's a transitional period where that old version is still kind of showing up, right? And still trying to keep you in your old ways because that's what's comfortable. Where this is a new way, even though it's serving you, but it's uncomfortable still. So that's
You're
a good
also, I
reminder.
mean, physiologically, you're creating new neural grooves. You're
New neural
Right.
pathways.
yeah,
habits.
you're changing things
Yeah.
in your brain even, right? So
So I think these are great little reminders too.
yeah.
Just like when you're going through that, and for myself feeling that resistance, to remind yourself that that's okay, this is normal, and that like
I think that's the hugest part, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest. Like
yeah,
I feel like
that actually when you said that, like
Yeah.
it made me feel actually okay.
Well, if
okay.
you remember Dr. Joe Dispenza, breaking the habit of being yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Talks
Yes.
a lot about
It
what
does talk a lot
happens
about that.
physiologically. Yeah.
It's the analogy of like one kick 10,000 times. So you're still going through those kicks until you actually master it.
Like muscle
That's
memory
the same
almost,
thing. Yeah,
right?
it's the same thing.
They say that about like anything, right? 10,000 hours, I think, and then you become a master at something.
Yeah. Same thing with discipline. You got
Yeah.
to do it 10,000 times until now it becomes a habit. And you're like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's like twofold. Like one, I think it's like being attached to having to feel like it. I don't feel like this. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it anyway. And I think the other half of it too is like,
Are you like let's take a real life experience for a
Yeah.
second here. Are you consciously thinking those things in your mind currently when those things come up? And this is a question for all of us.
to be honest, no. I wake up, I'm like, okay, it's 3:15, cool. That and set yourself up for success. I have like what I'm gonna wear, my sweatpants, my sweater, my
the night
jacket.
before.
I kind of put them where my alarm clock's gonna be and trying to eliminate
Before
the
you go to
excuses
bed.
before I go to bed.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those things I find supportive. So I don't
Yeah.
have to like.
Think
So I
about-
don't indulge in the thoughts. So it becomes thinking. And I think that's like thoughts can do whatever. Thinking is a problem.
Yeah.
Thoughts can
Yeah.
whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
I like
thinking
that.
is the problem. And then like there's, to me anyway, like there's the emotional addiction of what you get from wanting to do something and not doing it. You are a human being is emotionally addicted to that. Neurochemically addicted to that.
To
So
not doing it?
yeah,
Explain.
because I want to wake up at 7 a.m., because I want to be the best me possible. I love that idea. That's supportive. And just like, oh, I didn't do it. Shit, what's the matter with Jer? Like, you fucked up, bud. And
Yeah,
like,
I get
why?
that. But
No,
you're saying-
but like,
You're saying subconsciously we can be emotionally addicted
100%.
to that side of it?
100%.
That's interesting.
Because like that, because that's still a neurochemical spike in your brain.
Because that's-
and you're used to that.
Right.
That's why like I'm aware of my like how the patterns of my mind.
Yes.
My brain is addicted to that
I
shit.
get that. So you're comfortable. That's
Oh,
your
yeah,
That's your
like-
comfort zone, and that's what you're used to.
And that's why those unconscious patterns play out in your life, like self-sabotage. That's an example of what that is. Again, Joe
Okay.
Dispenza, you're going against decades of neurological conditioning, neurological and physical conditioning.
Right. So what are some things that you can do to help with this process when these things come up? Whether it's letting go of certain things that you identified, or recognizing you have certain habits and you want to change those habits. Like, do you guys have anything that you do consistently that helps you through this process?
Grace and start small. I think people underestimate a small step. And like when you want to build up your word as being law, wake up at 5 a.m., put on your shoes, do a single push-up, take off your shoes, go back to bed. That's a ridiculous thing to do.
But that
Yeah.
works for you?
But the point is that you are influencing your will, and you are proving to yourself that you can do what you said you're gonna do.
Yeah.
And that is still, and that one single push-up at that one single time is still completely contradictory to what your
Everything
body and
else you've been
mind
doing.
is used to.